Hi guys, my name is Darlene. You're watching another episode of the Creator to Creator Talk Show. And today in the studios we are having Mr. Alex, who is a 2D and a 3D animator, among other things. He has a lot to share about the animation industry in Uganda and East Africa. And I know we are going to learn a lot from him, so let's break ourselves. Mr. Alex, you're welcome on the show.
Thank you very much.
Are you comfortable? Are you feeling good?
Yeah, I'm comfortable.
That's great. So, Mr. Alex, you're welcome on the show. And before we get into animation, briefly tell us about yourself, who you are, and the decisions that really influenced you to break into the animation industry at an early age.
Well, I'm Alex Musisi, as you said. I'm a Ugandan 3D computer animator, homegrown, and I've been animating in the industry for about 8 years now, counting, of course. I've mostly centered around teaching, but previously I was animating a lot of pipelines. And the former head of research and development at Groceries, but currently I am the co-founder of Animator Uganda, which is a production and a mentorship hub for animators, basically good capacity. Yes, I've done a lot of things, but we shall see as we go along, but it matters.
So, Mr. Alex, for our audience that do not know what animation is, do you think you can explain to the audience or break it really down for them to really understand what animation is?
Okay, so most of the time when people ask about animation, the first thing they're going to ask is what is animation? Even for parents who want their kids to study computer animation, if you're okay, I want to study animation, but what is animation?
Yes.
So it's one of the questions I answer the most of the time. It's a bit strange. So animation comes from, I'll try to explain this as a teacher as much as possible, then I'll add in the technical bits. Because there are different definitions of animation. So animation comes from a Latin word called animare. So the Latin word animare means to bring to life. Okay, so animation, you could say in simpler terms that it's the process of bringing images to life. But since this is a show we're talking about art, I would define it for whoever's watching, basically the parent. I'll try to define it in a technical way. So technically, animation is a series of interrelated images that when played back at a certain speed, they have an illusion of movement. So it's usually measured in frames per second. So a frame is a single image. So if you have like 25 images, that is like frames per second. That is 25 images per second. That makes a second. So when those images have very small differences between them. So when you drive them back at certain speed, they give that illusion of movement, and that is pretty much animation at basic terms.
So like the movement is supposed to bring out, it is supposed to show the other person like an explanation, let's say of a story or something.
Yes. So at basic terms, that is animation. Now at advanced stages, like that is the basic design of the technology. Now that's what we use to creatively make stories by applying principles like animation principles. If you're interested in animation, definitely you know about animation principles like timing, spacing. When you add those, you're able to tell a story. It's more like playing a piano. the trick to making a rhythm is in the length of the notes. Like how long you hold a note makes a sound. So actually, music and animation are quite related. Close.
Okay.
Yes, that's animation. So we use that technology, that system, to create the stories. Depending on how long you want to hold the flame, how long you want to make sense to all these things.
Thank you for breaking it down. I hope our audience who are hearing it for the first time, they have really understood what animation is. And so, Alex, I understand animation as a profession in Uganda is not so hard of. Do you think, or would you please explain why that is? Why is it not so hard?
Yeah, certainly. It's also it's an observable situation in Uganda that animation is not that much known about. So it's true. When you go to the street and talk to whatever man you go to school and ask any student in normal settings what animation is, they wouldn't be able to tell you much. They wouldn't be able to tell you much. And of course, even in the marketing area, like people who know and are making use of animation, their patrons are really few, and it's for a few obvious reasons actually, and some which are not obvious. So, firstly, you would say that animation as an industry is still very small. It's young. You see, if somebody is young, not much people don't know much about them. But our industry in Uganda is just growing. So animation worldwide, it's been there for about now 200 years. It's been almost a century or two. But in Uganda, in African countries generally, in Uganda, it's still a technology to behold. It's new. It's just coming up. So as an industry in Uganda, just like the film industry in Uganda, it's not yet given out of audience, out of attention. People using it are using it at a very small scale. Well, that's one reason, because it's still very small. So in terms of size, I mean, there are very few people practicing and making use of animation. So you find that there are very few youth who are engaging with. I got to know about animation at university. Like most students actually do. You get to know about at university, because university you're exposed to so many fields you get to know about. But in school, you're only reading for your examinations, to get that mark and you're out of the place generally. So nobody's going to tell you about that career kind of stuff that you can actually transform and study animation. So as a result, very few people know about it because nobody's talking about it. The people who are supposed to talk about it are very few, and they are busy creating. They are really creative. The other thing is, animation it's a bit hard to study. If somebody ever told you that it is easy to study, they will be lying to you. It is not easy. I used to tell my students back then that animation is easy, and then I had to face the consequences of dealing with that situation. So it is not impossible to study. I'm not saying that people can't study animation. Yeah, they can.
Put your time into it, you can.
But you could tell me, actually, you could be my witness in this. You know that Uganda, as a country, we are mostly traders.
Yeah.
And most youth want to, do a business which could turn into big profits. Well, animation is not a kind of business. You have to put in the time. You study, for 2 years, and then you have to get experience on and everything. So, because of that, it is not popular. People just don't like it for some reason. So they want the result. When they see maybe somebody doing animation, they are making headways. They want it. Now, when you tell them the process of what study, they're like, you know what? Let's give it a rest.
So much.
Let's give it a rest. So, as a result, it's not yet popular. It's not yet popular. But we believe, also it's expensive. So the marketing or the agencies, they're not so much using it. So it has a bit remained obscure. It's under there, it's there, but very people are talking about it because maybe they're scared of it for some reason. They think it's expensive and it's hard to study. But it's there.
So, Mr. Alex, what does it take to be an animator? Please explain the audience?
It doesn't take much for someone to become an animator, actually.
Really?
Yes, and I will try not to kind of differentiate the two, 2D and 3D. But say, in simple, basic terms, you just need passion and interest. That's it.
Passion
and interest. Yes. You see, when the Steve Jobs were developing the first Apple computer, or when Google was beginning, you see things, or when IBM was making their first computer, things back then tech was very raw. It took a certain mind to go to those extreme lengths to make something happen. And those men were passionate. So it applies to each and every art that is not common. You see, animation is classical, and at some point has been even, I've heard rumors that animation is for rich kids. Well, I'm not rich, but somehow I got in. So it's kind of a myth, but it's true that actually at some point it's only kids from well-to-do families, even abroad, that's actually still art. And animation is still art and one of those classical things. So it is classical. It is a bit complex. It takes time to master. So for anyone who wants to study it, you have to be up to the challenge. You have to be yes, you have to be passionate. You have to be willing to pursue the dream and keep pushing forward. Now, a lot of people, a lot of parents have money, but I guarantee you, money is not going to make you an animator. Even if your parent is able to pay for you maybe 2M or 1.5, whatever, it is not the guarantee. It all comes down to the student, his passion and interest. If you have those, you'll be able to learn pretty much anything that you want to say animation.
So I hope our viewers, they have understood passion and interest. That would really take you to wherever you want to go. So, Mr. Alex, please explain to the audience how long or what does it take to learn 2D or 3D animation?
Well, animation, in regard that there's 2D and there's 3D. But according to, by my experience, when I was working for the first company I worked with, generally, I was involved a lot with structuring the teaching culture, the curriculum of the institution. And by God's grace, I've been able to study a lot about how to design a curriculum, how long, what does somebody need to study, what is important generally so that you become better faster. Because, as we said earlier, Uganda, if whatever you're teaching won't be fast, interest tends to kind of to drop. So you need to be fast and relevant. So a few individuals out there in the audience, probably they have a different formula to this, but I've zeroed down to 2 months to a year. You can set animation like that. 2 months to a year. Now, how? I divide that particular scenario in two phases. Now, there's learning phase and then there's experiencing phase. Now, you can learn animation. It doesn't mean how hard it is. Most pipelines, most companies, most studios, they want to hire people who are experienced. They call them experienced hands. Animation is about experience. The stuff you learn in class is the basics. The real deal is the experience. Actually, if somebody didn't go to class but they have more experience, they could be a better animator rather than you. I mean, everybody would learn animation. I don't everybody would become good at animation. So, the first phase is learning. 2 months to a year, you can study animation. Of course, put in mind passion interest. You have to keep at it. You have to keep following up. You have to keep doing it. If you skip, if you wander, you go look for money, then you come back study. If you're too old, all those things will hinder you from studying animation. So, learning it, software basically, tools, techniques, and and a bit of experience. 2 months, yeah. Now, it depends on how sharp someone is how hardworking somebody are, all those things can so somebody can learn animation if you want. People are really sharp.
Yeah, who have those who decide that today I'm going to put in my effort and do the thing.
And you can tell actually when in class that the students is bored. I mean, they either learn too fast, like they're bored. So usually those we have to treat them. That's why we do a one-on-one training actually, normally, so that you don't mix up somebody who wants to move faster with people who are taking their time. You know? So people could learn it in 6 months or a year. Some people actually 2 years. But see, I would say if you haven't learned how to animate and use the software and everything in 1 year, I mean, it might be time for you to try something else. But you know, it's not my place to tell you not to do such things. So when that year ends, the next stage is the experience stage. You need to find a place, join up a team, and start studying. And start experiencing. Do some internship, do some work. And that stage, if somebody tells you there's a gig here, but it doesn't pay much, that's the period when you're supposed to do 3 gigs actually. Because at the internet, when you're experienced, you won't be able to do that. But after studying, you have to take off like 2 years just getting the experience, learning to animate. You know, developing your own skill, your own style.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's roughly what it takes. So in total, count yourself 2 years.
Roughly 2 years.
Yes, to get that. Studying it and understanding how it works. 2 months to 1 year.
You'll be good to go.
You'll be good to go.
Yeah. Thank you very much, sir. The audience have really good on that. So, Mr. Alex, how different is marketing animation as a service in Uganda in comparison to other services offered in the creative industry?
So, animation in particular is a little different. It's not so different from actually the other services as such, because at the end of the day, Uganda or the creative industry is certain an economy which is capitalistic, where people negotiate like a lot. You know, people bargain on every service. So the difference for animation is, and I coined this. I came up with this term myself. I think animation is demonstrative marketing. What I mean by demonstrative marketing, it's about showcasing. It's about showcasing. It's not about. It's not just about you know, who has quality stuff and people know them, or who is more efficient and stuff. Given animation is still not known, as we were discussing, it's about demonstrating. So in most cases, you're going to find even clients say, hey, can you show us what you've done? Or can you do a sample? It's kind of demonstrative marketing, and it's frustrating, of course. It's demonstrative, it's kind of demonstration. So you have to showcase. It's not something you talk about like the way people sell maybe insurance. I'm sorry for insurance guys. People sell insurance or banks. They come like, do you want to register an account, open up an account with this bank or that bank? Animation isn't like that. Animation is there's this. It works like this. It could do this way. I mean, I have to tell you what it's going to do for you in order for you to be able to. So you have to explain, you have to demonstrate it, you have to showcase it. You see, you realize that all of you were watching Katoto for free. Yes. I mean, who has ever paid for Katoto? To watch it on your social media. But do you realize actually it's a form of marketing? And who doesn't know Katoto? And soon you start seeing adverts made like Katoto, Green Bank, it's called demonstrative marketing. We show people the possibilities. Now, when marketing animation, it's a two-way. The client has to know also what they want clearly. They have to really know what they want because they understand their product and they have to make sure that it's that animation will kind of do their products service. It's not a matter of, you know, you're talking about animation and they do it. So the first way to ease marketing animation or to make it work, the client has to come and do it so you know what animation is and what you want. Yes, then you can demonstrate what you can do as the one they have approached, and then the client can decide whether it fits well. So that's the difference. The other services you can talk about them a lot, but animation you have to show. You have to make sure.
Yeah. Of course, I might not buy what I don't see, so pay for what I'm not seeing. So that's a good way to market your work. So thank you for that very good approach. I hope the audience will pick it up and copy, and then they can use it to market whatever they do, or in the same industry they see in animation or any other thing. So thank you very much. So let's go into another question. So, Mr. Alex, I understand there are very few companies in Uganda that are doing 2D or 3D animation design. So what do you think is really hindering those few companies here in Uganda to really take off and be successful?
Well, that is quite a technical question and rather a difficult one. I thank God I've been lucky enough to talk to a lot of industry, like major industry stakeholders in Uganda. By stakeholders, I mean people like own studios, like major studios, and I've been able to work with a few of them. It's really a humbling kind of experience. Now, each of them has something different about why the industry is not growing, why it's not working out. I mean, there's a lot of information about that. But by this talk show, I'll give things from my perspective, from my experience. So the first thing is structures. The industry is just growing. We do not have structures. You see, every problem somebody will mention will probably fall into this area, like a structure.
What do you mean by structures?
Yeah, let me break that. So, structures. Have you noticed that's actually banks don't often give. Okay, previous maybe now it's changing. But banks don't give loans to farmers. Not that much. It's changing now, but before they used to fear giving them the loans. It's a simple thing of structures. You see, it's very hard to predict whether to rain or not.
Yeah.
And the banks fear things which are unknown. They don't want to invest money because that money is not theirs. It's for people. So they want to get that money and give it to you, and you're a farmer. We don't know if your things work out or won't work out.
Yeah, if I'll have a good harvest or...
Yes, that's why actually the government comes in and probably gives them maybe some sort of a handout, incentives to the banks to help the farmers. Now, banks are starting kind of muscle up and do it. So, it's a structure. There's no workable structure to give a farmer a loan. What is the security? How do you secure a field of beans? What is the security? That's the value of that side. So, it's something, it faces the young industry. Now, structures are what enable banks to give you a loan. To be like, okay, you're going to make a comic book or you're going to make a film, well, let's give you a loan. There has to be a value for money. There has to be a measure of how they're going to get the money. So what's the guarantee? You know that in Uganda, there are so many animators who have started projects and left them hanging. Okay, they stopped along the way. They just threw them out. That's why you don't see, you can be my witness. You don't see a lot of animation work in Uganda.
Yeah.
But you hear a lot of people talking about animation.
Yes.
But there is not that much, not available on TV. How much animation of Ugandan origin do you see on TV?
I've seen none.
There you go. So, it is simply not securable, as in, we have no structures for people who have money to interest us with money. That stops involvement because production requires money.
Yeah.
But you have to give somebody a real concrete, like a concrete assurance. You have to give them an assurance that the money they're investing in you is worth it to return to them. We don't have that now. So the company, the by structures, I mean there are no organized systems for banks to trust us. Every studio or every school, they have a different teaching culture. We don't have a standard teaching culture. That's a structure. It's not there. So when you go to Atfield, they have a different kind of culture. When you go to Crossroads or you go Uptake, it's kind of different. There's no standard like where you see Ministry of Education.
Yeah, like they have one that runs year to year.
We don't have that. So it's a challenge. Structures go way even beyond that. They go into the government. You know that we don't have an association. That's a structure. Well, as animators, we don't have an association. I mean, how does the government? We don't even have circles.
Form one.
Okay, there are reasons why people are not maybe doing this, but people have not been enthusiastic. Artists have not been enthusiastic because we are creators. Everybody is a creative. Stuff. Nobody's thinking of these structures as such. And on the sad note, somebody might come from outside the industry and they do this for us and they control us somehow. But these are the facts. We have no structures, so it's very hard for the industry to relate to other to other industries which actually we need. So as an industry, we're not benefiting from government incentives because we don't have a structure. We are still very small, basic. It's what we call, animation is still kind of a household industry. You have a computer, a good one, you sit in your room, create something. You get a client, you continue working. You know, there are no particular bigger structures. How do you tax it? Are we even taxed? Maybe we are taxed somewhere or the other generally, but there is not even like laws applying to this particular creative industry. Even when you go to MISO, when you go to URA, they don't really fully understand it. We're not integrated with them. That's a big problem. Now, major, that's what has kept the industry back. Now, on a more in-house, issue, skills, there are still very few. People there are very few animators. Actually, I could guarantee we are over. We are about 200 animators.
In the whole country?
Actually, in East Africa.
Oh, East Africa.
Now, you could find maybe 1,000 animators in East Africa. But when you go down to guys who actually do the actual thing and produce, and you can put them on a production and they are good, they might not be even a quarter of that. So, I mean, guys who are able to produce and they deliver work, they're very few. So that's also a big challenge. That's and of course, this is a domino effect. Like those structural things, the animation becomes expensive, it's unreliable, it all comes there, and the whole industry kind of stays under. So we need to really
same level.
It says in the same level. We need to do some major.
Yes, so it can begin with you. Pick a few people that you know, create something, and you never know what can come out tomorrow. So thank you for that insightful information. I hope the new upcoming growth, the new companies that are really starting up there, really gotten a trick on how to start up and be successful. So thank you very much. So Mr. Alex, what business model do you think animators and animation companies can really adopt to be very successful in this industry?
Yes, I can see now these areas are quite technical. So the best business model, there are several, definitely. There are several business models an animation company can take on. But according to my experience, the best business model is what you call project-based training. It's not a teaching model as such, it's also kind of a business model. It's called, we call it a project-based kind of training. I would say project-based training. So the reason why I'm not calling it a project-based, okay, we can call it a project-based model, if you use it. Now, the animation industry is delicate right now. It's young, and there are so many challenges any new business will face, from limited money, like resources or funds, to limited customers. Every time you have kind of balance, it's kind of a delicate system at the moment. There's no work. Sometimes you have workers and you have no work. Sometimes you have too much work and there's no workers. Sometimes you are faced with with under capacity, whereby you are choking on work. I mean, it's kind of sometimes you want to do this mega project and you have no money, so it's kind of a delicate balance. So far, the best business model is that project-based business model. Sometimes you find some companies called project-based training, some project-based whatever, but it has that element of project-based. So what I mean by project-based, everything depends on the project. Either the company, you decide to create an in-house project and develop all your other enterprises, all your other corner departments on that project, or if you're lucky enough and find a client, like me, actually I did find a client. I developed with my client, then we developed a client. So we're developing all our systems based on this client. So if you're not lucky enough to find a client, you have to develop your own project and some work it, fund it, some slowly until you get there. Now, for us, we are lucky when we met Sinza, Sinza.org, that organized NGO. They are into medical, nutritional sensitization, nutritional teaching. They make such content. So they had a budget. We developed with them, and then we have that budget. So we train all our staff, the new ones and the old ones on that. I know some companies in Uganda right now, they have, like, most of them currently, you notice that most companies are working on their TV series. It's kind of in market now. Everybody's working on some major project. You find some companies are working on some animation series and all of them. There are several of them actually. So they have realized it now that the best way to develop muscle structure, proper structure, while combating all the challenges the industry is facing, is to have one focused project that is continuous. Now, one focused project, what it does, it limits, it brings down the costs over time because you're using the same thing. It's easier to market and it's easier to use. It's exactly actually how Musimbuzi Studios did it when it produces Katoto. So you have one product, it's a series, so Katoto is reused and used. The animators get more experience because they are working the same thing, and then people are giving you feedback because they are, they are consuming it. You see that structure? It's really a beautiful structure. They are consuming it and they are giving you feedback, so you are making those changes along the way, and you are getting the marketing. I mean, it's massive. Yeah. It's massive. You're capturing on your audience, you're making these adjustments. Now, the clients are easy to come along and say, can Katoto do for us this or that? It's almost the same structure we're using for the same one character. You can teach about malaria, you can teach about infectious diseases. It's the same. It's like Sarah for Straight Talk Uganda. I think you read about those videos in high school or primary school. Both, yes. Yes. So remember, Sarah was one character which will talk about all issues of reproductive health. So Sinza is also almost like Sarah. Katoto has almost the same structure, so it's a project-based structure. That structure is good for a company in Uganda to overcome all these challenges while developing. So people should really know about it. This show we can break it down a bit, like rough lesson.
Thank you very much. I hope you have written that. Really, you've listened to that very carefully. It's very good information that he has given to us, and it will really help you when you want to come up and start your own thing. Thank you very much. I hope that it was helpful.